Hello and welcome to the chat room. I'm your lead moderator for today, Lua Muzumara. So excited to be on board and so excited to have you watching us over different platforms and different pages. We'll be looking at a very special topic tonight, and we have two particular guests who I'm a huge fan of. And on today, joined with Barry Lunga. Barry, are you excited for today?
I'm really looking forward to today's conversation. It's today's conversation not to go forward, but it's something I'm passionate about, and I'm just excited to talk about this and to explore thoughts with other people and see what we can do about what we're going to talk about.
Awesome, amazing. We'll be having Pastor Rudolph and Perpetual Paswani. Most of you are in line with what they do on love, faith, and passion, and they're sharing the message of relationships and building relationships that last. And that's what we'll be talking about today, building relationships that last. And we've had particular guests on this platform, the chat room. We've had Dumisan Nkube. We talked about entrepreneurship on our first week. We had another interaction with you, the chat room, where we just gathered a bunch of people that are following the page, and we talked about various aspects concerning the youth and how we can progress. And lastly, we had Sir Abel Chungu, who talked about mental health. So we are so excited that you guys have been tuning in, and we are so excited that even on this day, you are with us to tune in and to hear from us and the guests that are with us tonight. And Barry, what are you looking forward to today?
Obviously, talking about relationships, something I'm really passionate about is finding out how we can do it right. Because it's scary when you look at statistics today. It says 50% of all marriages end in divorce. When you go amongst youth today, you find so many broken hearts, so many crushed lives, and the number one factor being this thing that we call love. So noticing that love is a part of our life that we can't ignore. It's something that is also breaking up a lot of people, a lot of homes and whatnot, because we can't seem to figure out how to go about it correctly still. So I'm excited to learn on how we can get it right and get it right the first time.
Awesome. Equally excited as well. I think a lot of organizations and even the institution of marriage is founded upon relationships and how to manage that. So whatever aspects of life you're looking at, from the political sector, from a religious organization sector, from an education sector, from the corporate world, relationships do matter, and they are vital for the necessity of progress. But today we'll narrow it down, and we'll be looking at relationships from a point of dating, and further on we'll be looking at, as the guests come on, we'll be looking at it from a point of marriage and how we can just fulfill God's mission as regards to relationships. Now we look in our current culture, we have the famous saying, Vama love, you can die. And it's almost like there's a stereotype now. When growing up, we had these movies like Shrek, where people were so much a fan or fans of love. They're so much fans of relationships. And we're all trying to grasp our way to get into them even quicker than we could imagine. Toddlers growing up and thinking about love. And I don't know if that destroyed the narrative of what we see now. Is it that we have been rushing through these things and being too excited about them? That we didn't know how to go about them, and when we entered, we were like, whoa, what is this? And now we have a stereotype of how relationships are not per se the thing that people desire to pursue on the long term. So Barry, just your thoughts on that. Why have we switched the narrative to this stereotype of relationships are not a good thing and better just have flings?
Before I answer that, I just realized one isn't on this broadcast, and and what I saw is actually like, oh, okay, guys, we forgot about Wana. So Wana is with us, and he's like, I want to comment as well. We see you, Wana. So let's just bring in right after this ad, and we can answer the question.
Awesome.
Wana.
Hi everybody, it's good to be here. It's good to be live and loaded. How's everyone doing?
We totally forgot about you. We just forgot about we were going full force,
We were cruising.
I know, right? I've been enjoying the show from the background. It's been amazing. Yeah, a bit. quite insightful.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah. So you asked the question. Can you just like rephrase what you said?
Yeah, I was talking about the narrative that switched. When growing up, we had the narrative of how people were so much. We had so many fanatics of love, and people who really desired relationships, whether from a godly point of view, ungodly point of view, from a rushing point of view, a patient point of view. I don't know, but the narrative was sort of in line of people being passionate about relationships. And now we have a narrative of people that are stereotyping the Vamala, you can die. You know what I mean? So there's not really that consistent desire for relationships that last, but rather just flings because of the fear or of the narrative that's been switched to cause us to fear diving into relationships and staying committed to them. So what do you think has happened? What do you think has caused us to get to this point where a large population of our youth prefer flings than relationships they can commit to? I'll start with Barry.
For me, I would say obviously getting into consideration there's a lot of factors when talking about love and relationships. So it can't be one specific thing that results to this. One thing I can say is results. And what I mean by results is we can't ignore results. And so far, we've had many results. We've had many outcomes in which relationships went bad, in which marriages didn't work out, and people have grown up seeing these bad results. These results that really don't leave much to be aspired for. And because of this, they begin to write a new narrative. Because you're born in a world where you see things working out a certain way, so you begin to react a certain way in response to what you've seen and what you've lived out in. So I would say most for me, the way I say it, there's so little aspiration today to want to go the long run of relationships, to want to get it right the first time, because we have so little role models. We have so little people who we've actually seen within our families, within our communities, who've actually done it right. So there's little aspiration when it comes to the game right now. There's so many people who are doing it, but there's so few people who are doing it correctly. And that is resulting in a very huge societal damage.
Amazing, amazing, amazing insights there. I got a lot from that, and I'm sure many of us listening have tuned in to hear what Barry Lunga is saying. Wana Kamalamba, um, dating. Why date? When should you date? Or if there's even a when? What do you think about that? Why date? Why relationships?
Okay. I feel like I was mentioned. Somebody's trying to call me. Sorry. Um,
Did you get the question though?
I think it's having network trouble.
Okay, I'll throw it to you, Barry, and I'll leave that question for Wana. But as for you, when it comes to the stage of singleness, what am I really looking for at that stage prior to any relationship? What am I doing on my own in the single stage prior to a relationship?
Okay, so obviously this is something I read about, and singleness is the foundation. When you're thinking of a relationship, you're thinking of two individual people coming together to form a union, and singleness is that stage where you're able to look at yourself as an individual person, because you have to be a complete, a full person, meet another complete full person to make this work. So singleness is that time that you're taking out to get to know yourself, to get to discover what you want in life, to get to seek your purpose, to acquire your vision. So if when you comes to getting somebody, you're getting somebody with an objective. You know what you want, you know what you're looking for, you know what you are aiming for. And singleness gives you that time to be with you. It gives you that time to fall in love with you. It gives you that time to actually know yourself and to love yourself, making it possible for somebody else to come into your life and know you and love you as well. So singleness to me is very crucial because it is the fundamental, pivotal building point on which I believe successful relationships and marriages are built on. And you skip your singleness, you are in danger in your future relationship as well. So it's funny when you look at it that way, because then it becomes an interconnected process. You're just looking at, okay, there's relationship, there's marriage, there's singleness. It's not like different things. It's like one long thing, and it all starts with singleness, and it's all part of the mix. So it's not singleness, like it's one interrelated thing, and how you handle the previous stage determines your success for the next stage as well. So for me, that's where singleness comes into the picture. It is a fundamental building point.
Amazing! Wow, so informative. What Lamba, are you with us now?
yeah, I'm on.
Awesome, awesome. So my question was, why date? Why should Wana Kamalamba date? And when should he date if there's such a thing as when?
Okay. Firstly, I would like to comment on what Bai has said. I think singleness is absolutely necessary. I was thinking today and had a discussion with somebody today, and I said something that I would think of as profound. I said people don't really fall in love with people. Most times they fall in love with themselves in people. So the extent to which they see themselves in another person makes them actually fall in love with that other person. So if you don't really fall in love with yourself,
Okay, a bit of a network failure there. Um, we will continue with one. But Barry, you said something about skip. If you skip the singleness stage, it might have an effect on you as regards to being in a relationship. What do you mean by skipping the single stage? What does that look like?
What does it look like to keep the single stage? Um, okay, let me start by defining what I mean by single stage. Single stage here means intentional singleness. It's not just you not dating. That's like you can not be dating, but you're waiting. So single here means you being intentional about your singleness because you specifically want to get to meet you first. So what I mean by singleness. And how can you skip this? The people who skip singleness, even though they're not dating, they're just not single. Because they're not dating, but it's because maybe people keep rejecting them. They keep putting themselves in the market still. They're trying it out and it's not working out. So they're not really in quote single. They're just like waiting for the right partner to show up. And there's a difference here therein. So singleness here specifically means being intentional about wanting to be alone so you can get to meet you and prepare you for your partner yet to come.
Amazing, amazing. And now, skipping from the single stage, we are in the relationship. I think one thing that I'll add on to that is prior to being in a relationship, many of us are learning from the Miles Monroes, we're learning from the TD Jakes, and many other platforms that provide relationship advice. Even locally, we're learning from Set Apart, we are learning from Love, Faith, and Passion. We are learning from so many mentors. And I feel that really equips us for the stage of relationship. But one thing I would like to echo, even as we are being equipped, is when you're in a relationship, what you're doing as regards to loving is learning to love. Because you may have learned to love based on the people that have spoken into your life, but it doesn't mean that those principles will holistically apply to the person that you're with. One thing that I've done intentionally, being a person who was reading on relationships, I learned that a lot of things that I was trying to apply were not necessarily effective because I wasn't learning the person. So this is my point. When you have learned information as regards to extracurricular information, there is that side of you that still has to learn the person in the relationship. Don't take for granted that the fact that you have relationship advice you can execute entirely in a relationship. You have to be on a journey of constantly learning the person. And this is amazing because many of us are striving so hard to learn, but we're not learning the person. We're striving so hard to learn about relationship, but we're not learning the person. And I think I had to take an intentional step. You have an exam and the leakage is right in front of you. You can literally tell your partner, what is it that you would like me to improve on? What is it that you like for me to do in this relationship? What are you liking about me right now that I can continue or improve on? So constantly asking these questions to each other, being a mirror for each other and improving to love each other, learning each other better, I feel is necessity, not only to just you adding on to the information you're receiving, but also to you learning to grow in loving the person you're with. Wana, I don't know if you want to finish the earlier point that you're talking about, or should I allow you to jump onto this one that I've just said? Learning to love your partner. How does that look like? Okay, still. Can you get me? All
yeah.
right, we'll take a short break and then we'll be back. All right, we are here again. Thank you so much for all those who are tuned in, who are commenting. We see you. those who are joining us from different platforms across different pages through our page ambassadors. Thank you so much for tuning in. We're glad that you're here. And we'll be having our guest shortly. And before we have our guest, I'll just ask Barry to say just a few things on the aspect of singleness. This is the question that I have, because many people may be intentionally single, but then a person comes when they're trying to pursue singleness. And she has the skin that you like, she has the mind that you like, you know, her appearance is just Delilah striking, just takes the whole room by storm. And she has the personalities and the traits that you like. What do you do when you're in the stage where you're praying that God equipped you for a relationship and you feel yourself developing, but then all of a sudden, in the process of you trying to develop, somebody comes in midway? I'll throw it to Anna, then we can have Barry. I don't know if you can hear me now, Anna. Okay, still a challenge there. Okay, Barry.
I think you missed it.
Jump in on that one.
Okay. So if I got your question correctly, you're asking what do you do when you're trying to pursue your singleness, and you said I'm going to be intentional about this, and then somewhere along the way you meet somebody you are interested in, right?
Yes.
Is that your question? Okay. For me, it's the same kind of commitment you would need. It's the same kind of commitment you would need if you are dating and you have a partner that you're comfortable with, and then somewhere along the way you bump into another person who you find to be desirable. In the context of a relationship, obviously you say, no, I can't do that, I have to restrain, and probably do away with that. It's the same kind of logic, it's the same kind of principle, it's the same kind of commitment that you're going to give even unto your singleness, because here you're committed to yourself. So it's the same kind of logic, even though you say, okay, this is good, I like this, I'm drawn to this, you're still going to refrain as long as you're still committed to the mindset of being single at that time. So for me, it's the same kind of logic, and it's the same kind of commitment that is needed.
A very difficult one to do. I'm sure many people have been at that stage where they're actually pursuing singleness. Because the fear...
And it is difficult. And it is difficult, yeah. And the logic is, if you can manage to do that with yourself, for certain you will manage to do that when you have a partner. So again, you're developing this for you and for your future partner to come. Because if you can be faithful to yourself, there will be no trouble being faithful to your partner. And there is such a thing as being faithful to yourself. It's a real thing. So just like some bizarre idea, if you can manage to be faithful with you and only you, when the only person accountable in the room to see your unfaithfulness is you, and you still pull it off, trust me, you'll be able to be faithful when a partner comes in. It's that.
Wow, amazing, lovely. I love the message from Barry there. And I think one of the things that we also need to be intentional about is also being faithful to the development process when it comes to healing after a relationship. I think the same way you should be faithful to yourself when you're developing yourself to seek a relationship. Middle ground between your previous relationship and your next relationship, you really have to be committed to healing before you jump into the next one. And usually people heal only in perspective of how the other person broke them, but rarely do we ask the question, what was I doing in that relationship that also made it fail? You know, it's not always about, oh, they did this to me, they did this to me, they did this to me. I have to heal. But also you need to take an introspection to say, what was I doing that made that relationship fail? Was it my choice? Or was it the compatibility that wasn't there? Was it that I also contributed to us getting to this point? So I think when we're healing, it's important for us to be committed in the same development to actually healing, and also actually introspecting to the side of us that may have made the relationship fail. Wana Kamalamba, anything you would like to say from what we've been discussing?
Okay, interesting what Barry said there. I'm not quite sure I share the same thoughts in terms of remaining single even when you find the one you're looking for. But I must agree that if you don't really know yourself that well, and you don't really have that level of understanding where you sense that you are actually ready for a relationship, don't even try it. Even if somebody came, don't try it, right? Something you just said right now, very profound, You see, if life knocks you down or you experience a faulty relationship or failure in a relationship, don't get back up too early. Just stay there, relax, and find out what really happened. So I remember I didn't actually get to answer the question you asked me before. So I would like just to answer it. When do you start? When do you get into a relationship? The Bible says, and God made Eve a helper, a helpmeet for
Mm.
Adam.
Yeah.
So you can't get a helper when you don't have what you're working on. So the moment you realize that you have reached a point in your life where you have begun to actively work on your vision, and at that particular stage, your vision has reached a stage where it actually needs a helpmate to come in, that is the right time for you to actually date. Yeah, so I think that's my answer to that question. And throwing in quickly this last thought, relationships are important. You should never, I want to encourage somebody out there, you should never give up on relationships. Even if you were brokenhearted, your heart was cut in 90 pieces. You need to learn and to understand what the value of a relationship really is, because the devil fights against relationships not because he's fighting against you, but he's fighting against the generations to come and the potential generations that are going to come through you. So if you fail completely at relationships and you give up on relationships, you're giving up on the next generation. And that shouldn't be an option at all. Yeah. So even if you were broken before, you're gonna get somebody eventually. Somebody's gonna come. Just don't give up. Don't give up on love. Don't give up on loving. Yeah, that's those are the last thoughts I have to say.
Mm. Well, you should be able to guess in, but just a little bit of technical challenge there. But thank you so much for that one. Really informative. And when it comes to the same of a help meet, what's your say on the and this one I'll bring it down to your opinion because I think that there are a vast number of views on this. So what was I giving you this advice not from a point of uh, perfection or superiority, but we're giving it from a point of experience and what we've witnessed as regards to relationships. So I'll ask you this on an opinionated point of view. What's your view on the woman's role in a relationship? Because there's this tendency to think a woman just comes in, helps the man, helps the man, helps the man, but there's what's her role as regards to herself? What is she doing? Does it mean if she's supporting the man's vision or anchor or helping the man anchor his vision, she shouldn't have a vision? I think there's a lot of controversy around this, and that also led to the feminists movement. So what's your say on that?
And okay, when you look at that word carefully, help meet, right? For me, there's a duality in this. It's not just a helper, but it's a helpmeet, which means if I take it in literal English without actually doing anything to the English, the word meet means to meet, a meeting point. So this person is coming to help me as I'm coming to help her. So it's not a one-sided helping, right? Because at the end of the day, and this is something about relationships, when you meet the person you are like, they
Okay, I'll allow one to finish his point. But right now, I'll ask Barry Ilunga to just introduce our guest. But before he does that, we can take a short break and we'll be back.
All right, friends. So as we said, tonight we are joined by the Paswanis, and they are a lovely couple. They are wonderful mentors. They have a ministry that's all about relationships. How amazing is that? And for me, I think earlier we talked about having role models in society when it comes to relationships and marriage. For me, these are people who are redefining the norm, who are changing the narrative about love, about marriage, and it's so big for me to see people doing this kind of work because I feel in society there's so little room community around this topic of how to properly get love right, how to properly do marriage, how to properly do relationships. And when you think about the subject, it affects everybody in society. We are all, most people are in relationships, most people are married. So I feel it's a big topic, and these are people who are actively contributing to empowering people on how they can get it right. So tonight we're joined by the Paswanis, and they'll begin right after this. Hello.
Hi, good evening.
Hi, good
Okay.
evening.
Good evening, sir and ma'am. We're so excited to have you.
It's an honor to be
How's your
here.
Thank
Sunday
you for
been?
having us.
Welcome to the chat room.
Thank you, thank you.
Okay. Barry, am I audible?
I can hear
Yes,
you.
you are.
Can you hear me? Oh, okay. Awesome, awesome. We are so excited to have you on set. We've been following your page
Yes, we can
for
hear
some
you.
time now, and we really wanted to have the youths on our platform to have a feel and an experience of what you've already been sharing on your platform. And so we're so honored that you agreed to be with us tonight, and we're so excited to have you share on the building the relationships that last. And before we get into that, I just wanted to find out from a personal point of view. I was talking to Barry about the inception of relationships. Just from a personal point of view as regards to your relationship, how did it begin in the briefest way possible? How did it begin in terms of the transition from friendship to dating? How did that stage begin? Yeah, would love to hear from you as regards to that.
Okay, I think for us it was a process. It did not just happen in the twinkle of an eye. It was something that happened as a result of the place that we were already at as individuals, even before God actually brought us together. So it happened at a time and a season in our lives where we were individually seeking God earnestly, not only for marriage, but seeking Him in order for us to grow in our intimacy, grow in our ability to commune with Him, grow in our ability to understand purpose and who we are as individuals. And we were both surrendered to whatever process that God was taking us through in that season. And it was in that place that God then opened up my eyes to be able to see the gift that He had placed in front of me for quite some time. We had known each other for a few years. And it was in that season where I believe God actually saw that now I had the capacity to be able to contain this gift that He had given me, that He opened up my eyes. And it so happened that in that same season, He had already started to speak to my wife about it as well. She was having her own encounter with God. And so when I eventually spoke to her about it, it was not necessarily foreign to her, but she had already had conversations with God about where our relationship was going to go. Yeah, that's the short version.
Amazing. Wow. Very informative short version, I have to say. That was really loaded, and I'm really learning a lot from that. I'm sure our guests our audience is as well. And on that point, how do we get to a point where we know that this is the person we're supposed to date? Because there's a narrative of God should show me, and there's also the narrative of God doesn't show, but you get to know by interacting with the person or by being constantly engaging with the person and getting closer to each other. So how do we put in the right definition of how to know who to date rather?
Okay, so my take on how you can best know whether you're supposed to be with somebody or not. I believe that sometimes, unfortunately, as people, we limit God's move according to our encounters. but I believe there could never be anyone who could go wrong if they build first on their relationship with God. I believe that it is the relationship with God, the vertical relationship, that feeds the horizontal relationship. So if you have this right, you figure this one out easily. So sometimes God will not show you a dream, maybe like me, but you will know, your inner witness will tell you that this is the person to be with. And even when it's not as obvious, things will line up in a way that you will know that this is where I should be. So it's not about knowing that God said it's Mary, but what does my vertical relationship with a father tell me about the next person and their role in my life?
If I can just also add there, I think both
Amazing.
camps, those who say that God does speak and those who then say that no, he doesn't speak, he lets you choose. I think both camps are actually right. But I think the important thing is to understand what is right from both camps.
Yeah.
Because God does speak. He's an intentional God.
Yeah.
He cannot tell you about
Mm.
faith. He cannot tell you about your career. He cannot tell you about your schoolwork or what course you're to study, and then leave out the very important decision that ties into your destiny, that ties into generations. So God does speak. And at the same time, in as much as he does speak, the choice still remains up to you.
Yeah.
I think the power of our relationship with God lies in our ability to exercise our free will. So in as much as God does speak, it still boils down to your decision making.
Yeah.
You as the guy, you are the one who does the approaching. Angels will not descend from heaven and propose on your behalf, you know. Even when you look at Joseph, you might say that, but that's what happened with Joseph. No, no, no. Joseph had already approached this girl, and it was in the midst of their relationship that angels showed up.
Yeah.
So even the woman as well, the power to say yes is yours.
Yeah.
Remember that at the end of the day, nothing is going to happen if a woman does not say yes.
Yeah.
That's why even when the process of paying bridal price begins, they always ask, first of all, before anything happens, do you know these people? That's why even on the day of holy matrimony, they'll ask you that, do you? And you have to say, I
Yes.
do. And they ask both of you. So both of you have the power to choose. God does lead, God does guide. But at the end of the day, it is your choice to either follow what God says or do things your way.
Wow.
And for us, what we have learned is it's important to do things God's way.
Amazing, amazing, so informative. And we've looked at the inception of relationships. Now, when it comes to building relationships that actually last, and I was talking to the guys earlier on about the narrative that is spreading across as regards to Vama love, you can die. That the youth are on a rampage as regards to just heading for flings and not really committing to relationships. And so we have people that are being shaped with the narrative of the world that is bringing toxins as regards to commitment in relationships. And so many people don't really know how to meet or how to build relationships that last. So what's your advice on that? When we actually decide to build a relationship that we want to commit to, what do you think are the fundamentals that can help us build that particular relationship that is going to last?
All right, so I'm gonna share one of the things that Pastor P will take on the other ones. I believe that it's important first, before you even think of a relationship with another person, to establish how healthy the relationship with yourself is. Like, are you okay spending time with yourself? Are you healthy enough? How's your heart doing with everything that you've been through? Because unfortunately, whether we agree or not, we show up in relationships how we are. So if you were heartbroken and you have not healed, that's how you're going to show up in a relationship. So your relationship, first of all, with yourself is important. So what are the investments that you are making in yourself? Yes. How comfortable are you with yourself? Are you looking for opportunities to become better? Because the relationship with an amazing man, the relationship with an amazing woman will place a demand on a you that can contain that sort of relationship. Yes. A godly marriage places a demand on a godly woman to arise. A godly marriage places a demand on a godly man to arise. Yes. So first of all, it's a relationship with self. Yep. as a woman, how do you think submission sits with you? Because those are the fundamentals that guide how wives should operate in a marriage. As a husband, what does love look like to you? So all those are things that are in your power to do something about.
Yes.
Those are the things that are, we call this the law of one. You know, what I can do, who should I become to become the person that contains a godly marriage? Have I allowed myself to heal? Or am I still dwelling in my other relationship? The only thing that's just not agreeing with everything on the inside of me is that this person is not here right now. But in terms of my conversation, my thought process, they are totally in control of that. Then you know that you are going to struggle in relationships. So the first thing that you must get right is your relationship with yourself. Do you love yourself? Because we give of who we are and what we have. Are you forgiving of yourself? You know, are you comfortable developing yourself and challenging yourself? Because sometimes people say things like, you know what, I want a rich man, I want a CEO, or I want an independent woman. But nothing about you and where you are now can accommodate that sort of success, if I may call it.
Yeah.
You know, you want a CEO, but you don't even understand the economic issues in your country.
Yeah.
You don't even understand the basics about globalization. So what conversations are you going to sustain with a CEO? You know, with a man of power, with a man of dreams, with a woman who's got an idea of where she wants to be. So first of all, get your relationship with yourself right.
I think that's so important. And the other thing that's really important is have a firm understanding of your purpose in life. The Bible does tell us in Jeremiah 1, verse 5, God says that before I formed you, I knew you. So that speaks of how God Himself has a divine plan and a divine purpose for your life. Before means that before your relationship, before means that before holy matrimony, before means that before you even have kids, God already knew you. And it goes on to say that I set you apart, I appointed you as a prophet to the nation. Do you know what you have been set apart for? Do you know what God has appointed you to do? Do you know God's mandate for you over your life? Purpose is very important. Other versions of that same scripture speak of I know why. I know why. And why speaks of the reason behind why you are here on earth. Why is this so important? It's important because number one, where there is a lack of purpose, abuse is strife. So when you do not with strife, rather, it's rampant. When there is a lack of purpose, when you do not know why you are here on earth, it's easy for you to abuse the time that you have been given here on earth. It's easy for you to abuse the resources that God has given you, because life in itself is a resource, strength in itself is a resource, vision in itself is a resource. So it's very important that even before you think of engaging someone else, have you gotten a firm understanding? Do you have a firm grip on your own purpose? Many a times people wait too long. They wait until there is someone else, there is a plus one for them to begin to pursue purpose. But by then it is already too late. Why? Because unless God's grace steps in, it is very possible that your understanding of purpose then will drift the two of you apart. Because what if one's purpose is to serve God, full time, and the other one's purpose is to travel the world? That's what I want to do with my life. So how does one person who wants to serve God in their hometown, full time, and the one who wants to travel the world, how do you then gel? So many at times we wait too long. We wait until we have someone else, and yet purpose in your single season is when you actually have the best opportunity to pursue purpose, because you can then by yourself begin to seek out God for yourself before you let someone else's desires begin to drive you a certain way, before you let someone else's thoughts about the future drive you a certain way. Petition God, seek Him, so that He may be able to give you a firm understanding of your purpose. And as you do so, you will be equipped to be able to do life with someone else. And the third thing, the last thing that we wanted to share as a foundation for you to be able to build lasting relationships is to first of all focus on your relationship with God.
Yeah.
You know, many at times as believers, we do want the finished product. A good marriage is a finished product. A long-lasting relationship is a finished product. But guess what? Even a beautiful house is a finished product. But most of the times we focus on the things that do not allow the house in itself to stand. A beautiful house does not start with focusing on the chandelier. Beautiful house starts with the foundation. So one of the cornerstone of having a great relationship has to be Christ Jesus himself. It's very important that as we do relationship, we must not forget the fact that it is our relationship with God that empowers everything else. I always say this, that no man is a good man. No woman is a good man outside of God. No woman is a good woman outside of God. When you remove the God aspect from each and every single one of us, there is no telling what each and every single one of us is capable of. Each and every single one of us is capable of murder. Each and every single one of us is capable of adultery. But what stops us from performing all these things? When you have got the means, you have got the hands, you have got the planning capability, you have everything in you to actually do the will of the enemy. But what stops you is the God factor, is the God in you. So if we begin to pursue the result without first of all focusing on the fundamental issues, that is the reason why most of the times we struggle in relationships. We start calling relationships, these things are complicated. Hey, Vama love, what. The only reason why we are saying those things is because we have gotten it twisted. We are there focusing on the amenities. We're focusing on the paint that this house should be instead of focusing on fundamental issues. One of the fundamental issues is having Christ as your cornerstone.
And just to add on a little bit about what Pastor P just said, that's so powerful, it's so loaded. It's the God factor that makes any marriage. Most times people say, you know what, you're lucky you're married to a pastor, or you're lucky your mother-in-law is Pastor Gladys Paswani. You are just lucky. But they forget that in the back, when nobody is watching, what has held us together is the fact that we are humble before God. And for those people who follow us on Love, Faith, and Passion, we've shared before how sometimes it could get crazy. You're not talking, but God himself deals with you. And I shudder to think about people who want to pursue relationships without God. Because ultimately, marriage is God's idea. It is God's thing. So if we're going to do it right, if we're going to get the best, beyond just a beautiful wedding, getting a beautiful marriage means that there's a higher force above both of you, above husband and wife. So I'm not coming in here trying to prove to you that I am as good as any other person. You will hear me. But I'm listening, Lord. When do I speak? When do I be quiet? When can I pursue certain arguments? Because women are known for being notorious for, what's wrong? Nothing. But when you now wait 30 minutes, then you receive a whole textbook of the things they're not doing right. And it's because we trust our wisdom so much, we have taken out God, who is the very reason that unions are here. We've taken him out, and then we want to now show, I'm a doctor. I'm learned, I understand these things, so you can't talk to me like that. So we have a lot of pride in marriages. We have a lot of pride in relationships. We have a lot of us in the marriage. But remember, we are supposed to die to self, because this is an issue of covenant coming together. It's not Perpetual and Rudolph. It's two people becoming one. So it means that you can't separate us. Separating us means you hurt us both. But that means a lot of dying to self, because I have to take out the Bemba craziness in me and accept that Christ has to put a work in me for me to be the wife that he has called me to be.
Amazing. Wow. So informative and so loaded indeed. it's a ministry out here. And thank you so much for that information. We'll be closing in a moment. Thank you so much for joining us, everybody. And I would just like to ask, I would like for you to share your final thoughts as regards to that man. I won't just specifically say the ladies, but that man or that woman, that girl or that boy, if I should also include them, that has really had a hard time healing from a relationship and perhaps is struggling to get into another relationship. What's your advice for them as regards to the things they should look out for in that process of healing and also getting back into a relationship?
Okay, so healing first of all is your responsibility. I know you don't heal yourself, but it's your responsibility. And for me, I'll just share telltale signs that you have not healed. Anything that reminds you of your past relationship agitates you. You know, it's like touching a sore place. You know, like you're always jittery. You know, like somebody doesn't answer the phone or somebody doesn't text you at a particular time and it rubs you the wrong way. You know, you have not healed, and so you must just acknowledge that. Okay, so this thing happened. It hurt me. Lord, help me heal from this. And then from that place, you begin to realize that God will bring to your attention many things. God will bring to your attention your mistakes. I believe that every relationship that has failed is also a successful relationship. And this is why. You then discover that, you know, you were not going to work in marriage. But now it can only work for you. A failed relationship can only work for you if you pick your lessons. When you pick your lessons from that relationship, what could I have done better? What is my end of this damage?
Yeah.
What do I move forward with? How do I become a better person? What are the things that I am not going to allow moving forward? So many people move away from failed relationship only accounting for the other person's wrong and not their wrong. But for a relationship to be successful or to fail, it's two people. You agreed. You agreed whether it was verbally or non-verbally. You agreed because your actions were steering towards the end of the relationship. So account for the things that you could have done better. Account for your lessons. And now accounting for the lessons successfully is now knowing what can I do moving forward? What will I not do moving forward? So if two people decide that, okay, so we're going to do a godly relationship, then you decide that we'll be hanging out in my boyfriend's room.
Yeah.
And then you end up falling into sin. You agreed and you were steering this relationship for it to end in an unhealthy way. So moving forward, you don't say that he led me on, or you don't say she led me on. You say, I took myself there and I was a part of this thing. And moving forward, if a conversation ever comes up to say, okay, so, you know, we won't do anything, we're just going to marry, you know that for me, this is a boundary and I am bound to fall. And so, like that, you prepare for a successful transition into a new relationship. Time does not heal. It is what you do with time that allows for you to heal. So you can be single 4 years and trying to heal from a relationship from 6 years ago.
Yeah.
So you need to be clear about your lessons and you need to be clear about what you are doing in the lessons. Stop the blame game, because for any relationship to fail, two people have agreed. It's either they've agreed to break up, they've agreed to make this thing fail, or they've agreed to pursue God together. So it's important for you to account for your lessons.
And maybe just to quickly
Amazing.
add there, do we have enough time for me to add there?
Wow.
Please go ahead. There is.
All right. Just to add a few thoughts there as well.
Yeah, please go on.
One of the things that helps us whenever we are injured is where we take that injury to. You can take that injury to a witch doctor, you can take that injury to your aunt, or you can take that injury to a conventional doctor who would be able to assist you. So it's very important that we know where to take our emotional pain to when we are broken, when our souls are wounded. Remember, there is one who says, brethren, I wish above all things that you may prosper, even as your souls prosper. So it is important for us to learn to take our pain to God. So many times we only want to take our testimonies to God,
Yeah.
but God wants to do life with us. He does not only want to do victory with us. He is the God who is with you even in the valley of the shadow of death. So it's important that we learn how to take our pain, take our hurt to God. And as faithful as He is Rapha, as faithful as He is Rofeka, He will begin to mend our brokenness.
Yeah.
And one of the other things that they do whenever you go to a hospital and you've got a broken arm, they put a cast around your arm. One of the reasons why they do so is to give time to that place to heal. So it's important for you to give yourself time. Like my wife was saying, sometimes we're too quick to jump into another relationship before you heal. Have you really given yourself time to heal? Or do you think that just because 6 months has lapsed, so you are ready for another relationship? No, it's not really about time. But has there been healing that has taken place? Are you okay on the inside of you? And the other thing that the cast does is that it restricts mobility. So sometimes when you're actually in that phase of healing, it matters what you do. It matters where you go. It matters what you expose yourself to. You can't say that I'm healing from a broken arm and yet you are going to play soccer. Chances are you're going to hurt yourself again. So it's very important that you immobilize yourself from doing certain things that will easily get you back right at the same place that you were as well. But otherwise, indeed, healing is available.
Don't slide in the DM.
Don't start sliding in people's DMs when you have got a cast. Come on. Heal first.
Wow.
You know, that girl, and sometimes it's about, hey, what if some other guy fires her whilst I'm out here just waiting? If some other guy fires her and she agrees, then she was not meant for you.
Wow.
Amazing. This is so insightful. I could sit all day and listen to you guys speak. Like you're speaking, and I'm like, wow, it's amazing. It's amazing. So even as we're coming to an end, I have one final question, and perhaps I'll just ask you that. Okay, and we're back. Um, okay, so my final question for you has to do with marriage in a sense. And obviously, I understand your background. You're ministers of God, you're pastors, and you share mostly on godly relationships. And that is something I relate to as a believer. I believe marriage is God's invention. God did create marriage. Unfortunately, it is something everybody's participated in, even people who are Christians, who don't believe in God. They are open and free to engage in marriage as well. So even the issues around marriage aren't just Christian issues, but worldwide issues, a worldwide conversation when it comes to getting marriage right. And I think most of the time in conversations we engage conversations about godly marriage and godly relationships. But I wanted to find out what is there in terms of marriage for people who aren't believers. Is it possible for them to pursue marriage right? Is everybody who's pursuing marriage or relationship and is don't believe in God, are they doomed to fail automatically? Uh, is there any advice we have for people who might not be Christians, who might not be saved, not believe in Jesus, but married? Like, how does that work? How does that look like? How do we reconcile that?
Okay, I think marriage, first of all, was God's idea. Let me give you an example. If you want to understand how to best use your Apple phone, you don't go to Techno, you go to Apple. Why? Because they are the ones who manufactured that device. So they will tell you how to use that phone to the best of its capabilities. But now the challenge is that most of the times we want iPhone or Apple results whilst using the Techno manual. in as much as Techno is an okay phone, it's a really decent phone. It has got many features. But if you want an Apple kind of result, then you have to go to Apple themselves. So marriage is God's idea. And if we are going to enjoy the fullness of what he intended in Genesis 2, verse 24, when he said that it is for this reason that a man will leave his father and his mother and will be cleaved to his wife, and the two shall become one. If we want to understand the mystery and reap the beauty of what he had envisioned when he said that right there in the beginning, then it means that we have to be willing to do things his way. We have to do marriage God's terms. When you're trying to reconcile with people who are doing marriage but are not necessarily believers, trust me, it is possible for them to actually be in marriage. It is possible for non-believers to actually be married for several years. We know so many accounts of that, right? But now the question is, are they fulfilling God's mandate? Because remember, even when God said that two shall become one, he first of all said that it is for this reason.
Yeah.
So that means that there is a reason for the two of them coming together. And one of the major reasons is that so that we may be able to populate this earth with godly children. So that at the end of the day, we can be able to populate this earth with people who are able to exemplify or exude God or bring and manifest God here on earth. That is one of the reasons. So now you can imagine if the two of them come together, you make each other happy, you are married for a very long time, but are you really fulfilling God's agenda? Are you really fulfilling the actual mandate of why the two of you are coming together? Let me also then submit this to you. The reason why marriage is under attack right now, the world is trying to reinvent marriage. Now marriage is about man to man. It's also about woman to woman. It's also about a man with several women. It's also about a couple that is married, but they still swing. They allow themselves to also sleep with other people. It is an open marriage. All these things are coming together. Why? Because these guys who know how to probably make each other happy to one extent or the other, they are doing so and entering marriage without the understanding of the reason why God said that two shall become one. So it is very important that we do not miss the aspect of the fact that marriage is God's idea. And if we're going to do it right, we have to follow his manual.
Yeah.
Amazing, amazing. That was so insightful. I love that response. And what I'm getting from what you said is marriage was created by God and it is meant for a purpose. Yeah, I need for a purpose. And if you find that purpose, you have to go back to the author and to the creator of it over there already. And so to all our friends who are watching this broadcast, past, present, and future, if you are already in a marriage and maybe you don't know God yet, God is still giving you this opportunity to do marriage His way because He's one who created it. And when you do it His way, you get the most fruitfulness out of it. I think that's what I'm going from what you said. That's an amazing appeal. That's an amazing call to action. And I believe the people who are watching this will take that. I will take that. So right about now, we're coming to the conclusion of tonight's chat room. We are so glad to have had you on board. I was so grateful for everybody who's watching right now. We're thankful to our ambassadors who are sharing this broadcast on their platforms. And look forward to having our next chat room next Sunday at this time. So any last words? I know you have a ministry about marriage and relationships, and you have an event coming up soon. I think I heard something about that. Maybe you can talk a bit about that.
Okay, our team. Okay, so we have a conference coming up on 9th October. We have amazing speakers, Pastor Gladys Paswani, Dr. Patrick Osagi, and Dr. Nelly. And this conference will be just dealing with foundational issues. We believe that most of the things that affect people are foundational issues. So tickets are going for $150. It's a one-day event. It would be amazing to have you guys there, but we're also really, really expectant for just God to keep redefining the norm in our lives and just set us on a place where we can do relationship in His way.
Oh, wow, wonderful, wonderful. That's great. That's great. Yeah, reserve me a ticket. I'm definitely coming for that one. I'm definitely coming for that one. And guys, we highly recommend.
Awesome.
Yeah, we highly recommend this event. We You constantly have to keep yourself exercising and up to fit with the Word of God, especially when it comes to relationships, especially when it comes to marriage, because this is a big part and area of your life. So once again, thank you very much for tuning in tonight. We are grateful you came, and I look forward to interacting with you even in future. Unfortunately, this is where we come to the end of our show. And good night and God bless. And as Barry from the chat room, we love you guys. See you next time.
Good night. Thank you.
And, guys.